First up, the one thing I'd love most from this is to hear back from you. We can tweet about anything that might have connected in what I'm going to say, or you can send me GIFs that disagree with it all. Or we can just share links to great things like cool newsletters or timely poems. Or this video of a little boy who is all of us right now.
Where are you going?
Second, if you can, please donate to the Samaritans. Even a little will help somebody struggling in isolation, and it'll make you feel really good. Third, during this talk, some bolded, hopefully clear, possibly useful thoughts will occasionally pop up. They'll look like this. That's actually the first one, right there, right out of the gate. We're all finally realizing it's time to stop. I started to learn it the hard way a year ago, when I was fired. I say started to because the trouble was I didn't really stop, so I didn't really get it. Now with everything that's happening, I'm finally beginning to face things. I think a lot of us are. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Facing things. Here's one big thing I've learned in the life of being a writer, director, producer, son, brother, husband, dad. You can waste a lot of time overthinking what other people want and how to give it to them in the best way that will make them the most happy. And then you'll feel great and accomplished and done, right? Wrong. It doesn't work that way. You'll never really know what anybody else wants. But you do know what you want. And if you aren't sure, right now is the perfect moment to pause and figure that out. Most of us, for most of our lives, let other people put us on a path that satisfies them, which makes us chase their goals instead of our own. And the longer we're on that smooth sailing highway, the harder it becomes to take an off-ramp. We get so scared of change that the only way we ever stop to take stock of our lives is if we crash. But here's the thing. You can avoid the wreck. Just start small. And if you think like I do that we have a chance to make things different on the other side of all of this, start now. Find one good thing that makes you happy today or tomorrow or the next day and practice that. Don't worry, there's time. For me, one good thing is this isolated talk. ISOLA Ted Talk. What about ISOLA Ted Talk? ISOLA is Italian for island, and I can picture being isolated on some remote Italian island right now. Actually, that would just be avoiding things. Being alone on an island isn't great. Philoctetes, an ancient Greek warrior, spent 10 years alone on Lemnos, and that was only after he was bitten by a poisonous snake, and Odysseus, afraid to face the specter of death, left him to die. Kind of fitting now, isn't it? When so many people are twisting the truth into knots in order to avoid the reality of impending fate. And guess what we'll learn? You can't. You can't avoid failure. And fate is ultimately failure. Scary things are coming, and the scariest of them all, death, is definitely somewhere down the line. That may sound depressing, but it shouldn't. It's stoic. And being more stoic teaches you to stop equating losing things with losing yourself. It teaches you to embrace being scared. So, time to face things. Time to admit your fear. Don't worry, I'll start. Here's something that really scares me. I still have to figure out who I am. Until recently, I'd look at friends my age and think they had it easy. They were writers, bankers, social workers, small business owners. 3-letter acronyms that started with C and ended with O. And me, I was this awkward pause at a cocktail party after somebody asked, "So what do you do?" And now with the entire world in upheaval, I understand nobody really knows. Nobody's ever finished. There's a strange misfit in each of us who so badly wants to become more that it's terrifying to realize how much time we spend allowing ourselves to be less. And now everything's changed. We'll never get a louder wake-up call than this, to stop chasing what everyone else is doing and carve out our own weird and wonderful paths. A friend once gave me the best piece of advice I've ever heard. Stop making up rules. I think about that all the time, especially now. In an essay with an absolutely amazing title in the Paris Review, Sabrina Ora-Mark describes her own version of facing things, specifically a job she didn't get this coming year teaching at a university. She compares her search for finding her meaning through work to fairy tales, where the king is always the king. If he dethrones, his bones clatter into a heap and vanish. Loosen the seams of the stepmother and reach in, nothing but stepmother inside. Even when the princess is cinders and ash, she is still entirely princess. Who are we? Not just bones, more inside than appears to others, not dust when that's all it seems. We are never only princess. We're all so much more. And here's the thing that happens when you choose to look at things just a little differently. We don't lose jobs. They lose us. Let them go. You're more than any single title will ever allow you to be. Maybe you aren't what they're looking for. More likely, they had no idea what they want. Maybe you don't get to be chief creative officer anymore. More likely, you'll end up being even more creative in a business that doesn't use the word as a noun. Question everything. In her essay, Mark writes, "I've wanted a job like this for so long I barely even know why I want it anymore." That's a tough question. And so are these. What are you chasing? Why do you want it? Who are you? We need to ask those all the time, repeatedly. This is what greets you when you walk into our house, a black sheep, hard to find, camouflaged behind the words, question everything. It's a mandate to be curious, and a statement that even your own most closely held truths will probably at some point simply showcase your ignorance. And this is what says goodbye as you leave. Noli Timere, be not afraid. Words we can touch as we head out into a big, bright, scary, dangerous, and beautiful world. Be not afraid. Because in the end, things don't change that much over time, over days, weeks, months, centuries, millennia. We aren't that important. We aren't the center of anything but our own heads. And I desperately needed to get out of mine. Turns out that a pink slip and a world shutting down is all it took. Maybe that's what fate had in store for you too, I don't know. But here we are. Nearly 2,000 years after a Roman philosopher offered some advice that rings more true now than ever. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Strange days. We've come as close to the very end of our lives as we probably ever will. And depending on your take, we're either choosing to or being forced to postpone things. There's more reason than ever to be afraid. So what next? Here's what I propose. Everything that will ever happen is about to begin all over again. Now, and now, and now. It's a wonderful time if you think about it. And by that, I mean it's an undeniably amazing time just to wonder, who am I? What am I doing? What's going to happen? I have no idea. But let's face it. Let's finally admit this isn't going to be a fairy tale. And we don't want to be kings or stepmothers or princesses. We have the chance to become something much greater. Something that terrifies us. We have the chance to become our entire weird and brilliant and incredible selves.